All right, welcome back to Just Another Solar Podcast with Luke Beattie, that's me, and Carl Jensen. G'day, Carl. How are you?
Cracking day, mate. I am fantastic. Good to be here.
That's good, mate. And Jess McPherson. G'day, Jess.
Hey, mate. Batteries flying off the shelves, the huge.
That's good.
Doesn't look as nice here as it does there.
What, here?
Yes, for a
just taking, for a long weekend, just disappeared to some tropical place for a long weekend. So it's disgraceful. Industry legend Nigel Morris, how are you?
G'day team, good to be here. Just going to give you an update. Battery state of charge 68%, live power 81 kilowatts, live power 0.02. What's my generation? Generation's 2 kilowatts at 4:15 on a very wet, miserable, rainy day in Sydney. So life is good.
Okay, so I want some more information on that. Before you do, I just want to bookmark that the biggest event of the last week or months, you could say, is some stuff that's been happening around Sigenergy, and we are going to jump into that with the guest because there's a whole lot to unpack there. But your big news, Nige, we've been building up for your solar system and battery system, and the great reveal, the big reveal was online, so tell us about it.
Short version is, thanks to the help of some great people in the industry, I've got a terrific system. I've got 15 kilowatts of Tindo on the roof. I've got a wonderful black Clenergy, I think effectively cyclone-rated system that my installer hated me for, but has made sure that everything's securely tied down. It's spread across two sides, the south side and the north side. We noticed the other day, actually, there was like 4%, what was it, 14% difference between the north and the south side. So, totally worth doing. I've bought a few watts since it was switched on 3 days ago. But effectively, I haven't bought any power.
Tell us about the battery.
Sorry?
You missed the battery, Nige. Tell us about the battery.
Yeah. And 2 batteries, Power Plus, Whisper 7ths. So I went with the most Australian gear that I could. The Power Plus Whisper 7 uses cattle cells and a Red X inverter. And the short version is I went with companies who I feel like I can rely on, who I've got good relationships with. The products suit my needs really well. It looks good it looks fabulous on the roof. I put a little video up online, and the batteries are nice and narrow, and a single stack, including the inverter, so minimal penetrations into the wall, minimal penetrations into the switchboard, all that kind of jazz. Worked really well for me. Might not work for everyone, but I actually love what I'm doing. I'm sitting here staring at the app, 3 days continuously now.
And we know you love when tradesmen and techs come around to the house, the hands go behind the back, and you get to watch them do that.
I did say to them a few times, sorry guys, I'm that guy.
Yeah. And you got the bike fully charged for the weekend, Nige?
Bike's ready to rock and roll, mate. I've been testing. We did a blackout test. One of the first things I did is, okay, switch it off. Didn't even drop the router, which is a good test for me if the router doesn't drop out and the comms stay alive. Very happy with the blackout function, and ran around the house telling my wife and 2 boys, look at that, we're running off grid. Effectively running off grid.
That's
so
awesome.
Very exciting.
Were they like, and?
Is that like any different to being on the grid?
Well, yeah, my son had 3 friends around last night watching a movie, and I bolted in the middle of the movie and went, do you realise that we're running this entirely off solar and the batteries, and here's the app, and you'll love this. And they just went,
the volume just goes up on the TV.
Good job, Nige. Yeah, Dad.
And if they ignored you, Nige, just flick off the modem. That'll do it.
Right. No, so huge. I have to give huge props. Tindo, Power Plus, and Clenergy were just awesome and supported me. And Chris Pond, my local guy, he's helped me with multiple solar systems on multiple rentals. I tortured him and his guys. Getting the system up and running, and it was new gear for them. They hadn't actually used this gear before, so it was a tricky install and a high roof, and blah 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 blah. So everyone really was so fabulous and really helpful to me. So I really appreciate everybody's help.
Great stuff.
That's awesome, man. great news. And Carl, you went to Everything Electric. How was that?
Yeah, everything electric. I volunteered for Renew magazine and talked to lots of people about electrifying their home,
Oh, good on you, mate.
which I'm going to vow not to do ever again. I'm instead going to go and work for one of these Chinese EV manufacturers, and someone can pay me for 3 days instead.
Oh, that was the issue.
Yeah. It's a big commitment, right? You've got to get there at 9 o'clock in the
It's a
morning.
lot of work.
And then you're there till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night. And then, anyway, it's...
You don't want to do it for the love of it, Carl.
Sure.
So a lot of them, there are end customers, though, Carl, right? So it's not a B2B event per se. Some of the industries there, a lot of them are on stands, but it's mostly end customers interested in electric vehicles, electrification, and all that stuff.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that right?
I beat the iStore drum hard.
Punters.
There you go. Okay, and some of the other news coming out, Nige, the Smart Energy Council, has got a new button on their website. What's that all about?
Oh, we love a new button. In fact, we've got 2 new buttons, but the one that I was most excited about today was I was chatting with an installer, actually, who clicked one of our buttons that said, do you have an issue that you want to talk to the Smart Energy Council about? And he clicked the button, and I rang him, and he said, I only clicked that button 4 minutes ago, and I've been trying to get in contact with every other industry organisation in the country, and you just responded straight away. Thank you so much. I said, well, you're most welcome. How can I help? And he talked for ages about a whole lot of stuff, but one of the things he talked about was how he's pulling off old systems, and he wanted help with recycling, and he wanted to know where the recyclers were. And we've been running our roadshow and also talking about recycling in the roadshow. And I realised that we didn't actually have a button on our website that said recycle your solar panels here. And so I put one on there. And so now there is actually a really, really simple way for everyone in the Australian industry to find out where their nearest recycler is. We're still in the early days. We've still got work to do, and we're still trying to get help from the feds and the state government, stay tuned, about what might come out and how we can scale this up and, really make it super, super easy. But there are a bunch of recyclers who are actively out there. In fact, I was talking to someone today, and they said, oh, yeah, the guys in New South Wales, if you're in Greater Sydney, they'll send a truck and come and get your panels. Right, it's quite easy to recycle in New South Wales. So anyway, this is us going. Not only are we going to make ourselves accessible, not only are we going to listen to what the industry wants, we're going to actually deliver some stuff for people and make it really easy to solve these problems that everyone wants solved. So I'm really excited about it because it's just one of the issues that needs to be resolved. And sometimes a button is all you need.
That's awesome, Nige. And I just want to make a quick mention of the coalition. And they've come out and they've scrapped net zero and they're changing their strategy. And I looked into this, so with an open mind, because they said, we're not anti-renewables. We just think we should scrap a target because, they're going on the cost of living. So we want to be able to reduce bills and we want reliable energy and all the usual shit that we hear critical of the renewable industry. The interesting thing I saw is that they've also added coal back into the mix as a potential energy source.
Yep.
Now, I'm just going to put this out very quickly and say that if you want to finance a new coal plant, if you want to insure a new coal plant, vast majority of the companies that offer financing and insurance and anything along those lines will not touch coal or fossil fuels anymore. So we're waiting on our nuclear plants yet again for 25 years. There are shambles. So Pandora's box is open. Get with the program. You're going to lose the next, you've pretty much lost the next generation anyway, just on the back of that. So, yeah. So do better is what I would say, coalition.
It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it, that we're sort of like, we come back to this and, it was a pretty strong, a pretty important campaign topic for everyone of the last election. And it was more than a landslide loss for them, and they're still doing the same playbook. Like, come on, guys.
There's a lot of rages online, though. These politicians have put up posts, what do you think about this? And there's tons of rages, nuclear. Do
you know what? I'm just going to take that off. Personal opinion. Matt Canavan put a post up this week that highlighted that the lowest cost of energy in Australia is coal. Here's the evidence. And he posted a graph from Cyro that clipped that clipped the statement that said renewables are the cheapest. He just clipped it off and posted it out. I mean, honestly, Matt Canavan, bewildered.
Because we live in a post-Trump political landscape where you just can say whatever you want and you don't have to back it up. And if a few people believe you, that's fine. Like that's achieved the goal that you wanted to achieve, and that's it. That's like full stop.
Well, full credit to 100% Renewables SA, I think it was, who jumped straight on it. I got distracted.
They're a good page.
They're a great page, and they were straight on it and went, here's actually the whole page of the graph that Matt Canavan clipped and misinterpreted and put out, saying coal is the cheapest form of energy. Here's the actual graph with all the comments on it that shows that renewables are going to be cheaper. And by the way, that was solar with firming. That was solar with batteries. If you just put solar in there, the graph, the scale's all wrong because solar's so cheap. It was just the most puerile. Canavan's
It's ludicrous. I was just looking for the hamster wheels attached to a motor.
Unbelievable.
And if we get enough hamsters, we don't need to worry about this net zero bullshit. We're just going to have hamsters.
Just those little like bikes under the desks or something.
Unbelievable. I mean, mainstream right-wing media would criticise us of being, the indoctrinated and the woke and everything else. But, all you have to do is look at the basic maths. Solar and renewables are the cheapest form of energy that the world has ever seen. Most technologically advanced, most investment, biggest capacity globally, exceeding expectations left, right, and centre, and here we are with the biggest home storage scheme that the world's ever seen. That's going gangbusters. I wish these guys, Matt. I'm sure Matt's an okay guy, Matt. I'll buy you a beer and have a chat sometime.
You hold him down, I'll kick him.
I'm gonna repeat something that's been on the podcast. I can't remember, 18 months ago, thereabouts. The week that the coalition announced their nuclear policy and the small modular reactors, I met with Ted O'Brien. And the interesting thing was I challenged him on that. And I said, when you look at levelized cost of energy, solar, wind, storage, renewables, beats nuclear, coal, and all the rest by a long way. His response to me was, well, actually, levelized cost of energy isn't the best measure in our opinion of how you do it. It's like, well, that's the fucking global standard of how we measure the cost of energy.
It's kind of science.
So it's Trump. Yeah, it's Trumpian. It's this because I say it's this, and I don't care about your evidence
really
because
small
it's this.
category that's crazy
ridiculous.
It's RFK on vaccine danger.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we should bring our guest in because we've got a massive issue that's blown up this week. Now, Anthony Bennett from SolarQuotes writes some of the most incisive articles in the industry and some of the most provocative ones, I'm going to say. And I'm going to say that, they are well researched. They always have an interesting angle. Anthony's also an installer, and I know from chats I've had with him, and I'm sure you guys have as well, that he's very, very knowledgeable about this stuff. So there's been an ACCC recall on Sigenergy products. We're going to go into details. But before that recall went ahead, there was a SolarQuotes article that Anthony authored, which blew the lid off it. So there have been murmurs, there have been some evidence, and been some things going on. And really the article was a catalyst to bring it to the forefront and to see what we have seen, which we're about to go into. But welcome to the podcast, Anthony.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for having us. I can't claim all the credit.
Of course, but I know my phone has been ringing off the hook, and my emails and my WhatsApps and messages. It's a massive news thing because Sigenergy we've spoken about a lot in the last couple of years. They came onto the scene. They took over around a third of the residential battery market. The rebate came in. The numbers are eye-watering that they've installed. Will Hall and his team have done an enormous job to build them into where they are currently, and obviously the parent company and international as well building these products. And now we have an ACCC recall. So before we go into the issues though, Anthony, I'd like you to talk to us about the article, the timeline of the article, how the information came about. You were holding off on releasing it. Do you want to give us that whole backstory?
Yeah, I sat down this morning and tried to work out when exactly it all went together, and I wrote myself a page of notes. From what I can gather, they knew something was up at least 11 or 12 weeks ago, because I've spoken to guys who said, look, I had a problem, and when I messaged it to them saying I've got a melted plug, they got the instant reply back, yeah, we know it's the single phase one, isn't it? So they knew that long ago that they had an issue on their hands. Now, in my little timeline I wrote out, that would have been early September. Now, incidentally, Tesla had a recall in mid-September, and I reckon they did a really good job of that. They had a problem when they knew it. They ran the batteries flat. They turned them off. They notified the customers. I reckon that's a great way to do it.
Yeah,
Their batteries
Yeah.
were catching fire, notably, which SIGs weren't.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously and I've heard some sketchy stories about what they were doing. And what I've found interesting is that an AC plug connection isn't the sort of rocket science that is building a battery that's durable. They've put out or we learned, I think it was via cutters, that they were doing some inspections. They had guys on the ground about 6 weeks ago. They came out in the following week with the documentation saying, look, it's not us, it's you. You guys need to follow the instructions better, and here are the instructions specifically, which struck me a little bit as them limiting their warranty liability. But obviously they were getting onto it. They needed to do something. I had another report that a guy was struggling to get warranty service. That was over a month ago. I emailed to Will and Pradeep and to Sigenergy, and that was just before All Energy, and got no response to it. Now, I thought maybe I'd just replied to an existing thread, because we've had plenty of contact with them before. They've been really responsive normally, and got nothing back on that. Crickets. I didn't go and collar somebody at All Energy, and I should have. In retrospect, I reckon I should have gone and talked to somebody and said, "Here, what's going on?" You know.
I want to jump in as devil's advocate here. Now, I don't know. I haven't heard this from Will or Mark or Pradeep or any of the team, but I would suspect that once there's a known issue and they're looking to fix it, and we'll go into what Sigenergy are doing to fix it as well. I would imagine that there's some sort of restriction on what they're allowed to say, particularly publicly. Do you think that that's correct, guys? Like, I'm speculating here, but I know that Will has been very active online in the forums. They haven't been shy to get into the public debate, and then they did seem to disappear from the conversation. So I just wonder whether that was them making the choice to do it. Now, having seen Will roll the sleeves up and get in the trenches, I think potentially there was some sort of order that might have been given that, hey, we need to keep quiet on this, except for official releases. Potentially. What are your thoughts?
Point.
Well,
it's a good point.
Well, I can tell you, because I was on a call with I think there were 7 regulatory bodies this week, that when 7 regulatory bodies get involved, that's complicated, firstly. Secondly, all those regulatory bodies have lawyers and media managers. So there's 2 extra layers of complication. And then, of course, there's SIG HQ, who are going to have their own lawyers and their own stuff that's going on. So there are 8 bodies that need to agree on what's being said and what's not being said, and at what level things are released. And once you move into a formal process of notifying government about an electrical safety issue, which ultimately resulted in a recall, I can tell you, SIG have zero control over the speed of the deployment of the message. Zero. They don't have that control. And
it's been noted multiple times that it's a voluntary recall as well. I've noticed that a few times in the statements made by like SIG representatives or just people in the comments. But it does seem
not
I think that
voluntary
is
anymore.
no,
it is.
A point of difference.
It is voluntary. Yes, it is.
ACCC stuff. What
No,
soon as that
it's still
ACCC
voluntary. There's a difference between a mandatory recall and a voluntary recall.
Yeah,
A
there is.
mandatory recall is when the ACCC steps in and says, we're going to force you to recall the product because we've become aware of it. A voluntary recall is when a manufacturer voluntarily steps up and says, we believe that we have a problem. Here's how we'd like to address it. We'd like to work with you and negotiate with you on how to address it. And that is a voluntary recall, and they're very different. I'm going to say before, just for clarity though, because I've seen a ton of this online, when a product is in recall, it is illegal to supply, sell, or install it. I'm going to make that point really clear because I have seen multiple installers saying, well, this is, really bad for my business and blah, 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 and I'm just going to keep installing.
STC losses. My customers are already angry at me.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
It's a pain in the backside. There is no doubt about that. It's not the first recall. I'm going to say there are 400 recalls a year or more on average. There was a bicycle recall this week from Kmart, which could kill kids, for God's sake. There are recalls all the time. Let's be really clear. If you're an installer, you are not allowed by law to install a product that is subject to a recall. And I want to make that explicit to people because through no fault of anybody's, this has happened, but you need to be extremely careful about your legal obligations and your risks.
Do you think it's like the channels of communication? Because there's been stuff on Facebook calls, like Facebook pages, and I've seen emails as well. But in terms of, because SIG doesn't have like an installer partnership network, like some, insert your brand here, plenty of them have their own network of people who are specifically qualified to install that product. Because there's not a network like that, technically anyone could buy and install SIG, that it's then down to the distributors to disperse that information?
Look, I think the one fair criticism that you could give SIG is that they've really struggled to keep up with the volume of communication. And that's a function of the biggest battery rebate program that's ever happened in Australia, potentially the biggest one that's ever happened in the world, right? I've just come back from China and they're going, Australia's got the biggest battery rebate program in the world.
We hope that we're not on fire, Nige.
I didn't say that.
That's the whole point of the recall, Nige.
I didn't say it, Carl.
It's a good point to say that as much as people get very much about, I install SIG, no, I don't, I'm going to sink the boot in, I'm going to support it, ultimately it's reflective of the whole industry. So sorry, Nigel, please.
Here. That's right. So I think it's fair to say that everyone has been frustrated by the fact that there wasn't more information flowing faster. I think that's a fair criticism. It would have been great. I did an interview with Pat Southwell yesterday that went up live today where I made the same comment. I said it would have been great. But you know what? It wasn't SIG's fault. It was not their fault. They were doing everything they could possibly do to get that information out there fast. And I think it's incredibly unfair to have, for everyone, including you, Anthony, I think it was really unfair for you guys to hoik that on them and hold them accountable for stuff that they're not in control of.
All right, let's go back to Anthony because he was up to the narrative where he was saying there was something going on. Yeah. Sorry, mate.
No.
The casual podcast. So you were at All Energy. There was stuff. There was some inspections on site and everything else around All Energy. You were saying that you didn't get a chance to grab the SIG guys. So please continue.
I went through and I actually worked out it was from today. It was 25 days ago that I emailed them. That was just before All Energy and got nothing. 17 days ago, they had a fire and the customer CC'd us on the email that they sent to SIG saying, oh, look, my CPAP machine went off at 2 a.m. I found my garage full of smoke. I backed my car out. I got the fire extinguisher onto it. We got the fire people and we spent the rest of another hour trying to work out how to switch it off. The little red.
Were they a SolarQuotes lead, Anthony?
No, I don't think they were, but the customer included us on it because the customer was shit scared and wanted to make sure that this didn't go unnoticed. And
understandably.
Yeah. And
how does a plug get that hot running a CPAP machine, Anthony?
Well,
That
this
doesn't make any
is
sense.
this is what I've got. I've got no answers for either, because the
There could have been other stuff running. That was the thing that made the customer notice, right?
yeah,
It's
well,
So
what he
You're
said
not
though
using
was
10
that
kilowatts while you're asleep.
no, but he said the fans were running on the inverter, which makes me think if it had fried the connection during the day, and it was now getting to the point where even a tiny amount of load on it was maintaining the heat in that connection, and then it started to fry the cable inside the machine. Maybe that's why. But he said
But we're
despite
speculating.
despite very little load, the fans were running. He couldn't shut it down. It took him a while to find the little red button and thought, this is a dreadful place to put it because the thing's squirting flames out the fan at me. I didn't know that at
Do
the
you know if
time.
SIG
I didn't.
did the SIG engineers go to this site? Do you know?
They did, and that's what I'll get onto. I didn't know that had happened at the time. I emailed them again on the following day with a new fresh email with a list of concerns on it, and again I got crickets. Now, that was the same day that the manager at SolarQuotes, Trev, contacted them because we'd been CC'd on this email about this fire. And they came back the following day with a couple of responses. One of them did say sorry. One of them was a bit nonchalant and just said, "Oh well, we've been and looked at it, and it was an installer problem. You know, that's nothing to do with us," kind of tone. Now, that was about 16 days ago. Fortnight ago, we contacted them and said, look, we're pretty deeply concerned here. If these things go pear-shaped, we've actually got skin in the game because under the good install guarantee, we're liable to pay to put things right. We were trying to work out what was going on with them, and we got some promises. Oh, we'll have comms out soon, you know, where they were, that was the day, the Friday, I think, that they had introduced the throttling software, and they didn't tell us that that's what they had done. So they said, oh, yeah, we'll have something out soon, Monday maybe. Now, come Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, nothing was out still. So I feel like they were not being truthful with us in saying, oh, look, it's coming soon, we'll have it out. But they weren't really,
mate,
they weren't
really?
really detailing.
Were they being not truthful, or were they hamstrung by lawyers and regulators?
It's the same thing, Nige. Ethics doesn't come in a Wheaties packet.
Even if they were, they should set realistic expectations.
We would like to be able to help them, because we know that there are 40,000 people that open our newsletter every week, and if it doesn't go out, we get irate emails going, "Where's my newsletter? I want my news." You know, so we know that we've got a role to play. I get, you know, network companies ring me up and go, "Oh, we'd like to publicise something. Can you get it out for us?" Now, I didn't get a response until I collared one of the SIG guys at Smart Energy in Adelaide, and posed a few questions to him. He has then obviously gone back and reported, and the following day I got an email, you know, that addressed none of my questions, but just said, "Oh, you know, just hold up, you know, for the good of the industry, we need to sort of keep this under our hat." But again, just didn't explain what they were trying to achieve. It was pretty bland what they were putting out. By that stage, we had an article sort of pretty well written, and there was about 30 revisions in it by the time we went through and changed details and what we learnt along the way. But eventually, the editor, Max, he's a proper journalist, like he comes from the Saturday paper. He wanted to make sure that they had the right of reply, that they were entitled to make a comment on it. And apparently, in his words, the conversation was a bit colourful when he declined not to delay the publishing any further. We went we said, right, it's going out tomorrow. And we ended up getting comment from SIG at 3 in the morning. And we managed to put that in the article before it was published at about, I don't know, 6:30, I think. But that was 8 days ago. And the email that accompanied it said in big bold text, the only big bold text in the whole email, this is not a recall. The recall itself went out on Thursday the 19th. It went up on their installer Facebook page, and that was the first time anything appeared on their installer page that wasn't Sweetness and Light. It took them about 20 hours to get something up on the end user page. Again, it was the first time something turned up there that sort of acknowledged that there was a problem. And what I've been impressed,
because this isn't unprecedented, right? Just quick. So it's not unprecedented in that I know at least Sungrow, I believe Goodwe and GrowWatt have all had AC plug issues that have been flagged by regulators. And then there's been communication, hey, we have this issue, this is what we're doing to fix it. You know, you can get a new plug or whatever they did. There was that communication piece pretty clearly that we have this issue, this is what we're doing to fix it.
Yeah.
Sorry, please keep going.
No, I said I've looked into a few of them. It's the end user page only got this critical information on it yesterday. Now, I've looked at the GrowWatt and Goodwe plugs. I reckon Goodwe did a really good job of having a 3-phase plug that technically didn't have a lock on it, and then you could pull it off, and then you could put the official test finger into it. But that generally doesn't happen because it's plugged in and you want it to work. They were tangled up at the same time as GrowWatt, who had exposed live parts. And unless you're an electrician, those words don't seem to have the gravity that if you've had a GrowWatt hybrid that had been on the market for 22 months, I think, and somebody didn't put the blanking plug on it, it could be there quite happily functioning with a plug that you could get your finger into and it could electrocute you. Their attitude was a, quote, soft recall. There was nothing on their website. They relied on the ACCC to publicise it. They sent out a few emails. Goodwe, on the other hand, set up a dedicated page, a dedicated warranty procedure. They paid cash for people to go and fix it. They really went after the problem, even though I reckon that their problem was nothing like as serious as the one that GrowWatt had.
But isn't it funny, we've got these complex pieces of kit, inverters, batteries, and we've had multiple incidences where it's something as simple as a plug that is a point of failure, concern, recall.
Yeah.
To do a little left of field question here, is this not stuff that should get picked up at the CEC approval stage?
Oh, it's funny you should mention that, Jess, because I wrote to the CEC about it, and it took me, I've never put it together into an article, and I should. It took me a year to get a response, and by the time I finally got it, it was so serious that it even had Kane write his name on the bottom of it. But I got to the point where I was ringing the CER every week. I was on first name terms with the guy at the CER, basically saying, no, they haven't got back to me. No, that response is not good enough. And eventually they came back with a sort of mealy mouth, half-assed sort of thing saying, because I was asking them, look, how did this get through your procedure? And do you think that these two different companies with their two different approaches have met the CEC's lofty requirements for being, transparent and for the good of the industry? I never really got a comprehensive answer to it, but it's funny having been through.
Because we hear people complain about it taking so long to get through, and then it's like.
We could go down a total rabbit warren about product approvals and product approval processes and where the Clean Energy Council sits and where
the CEC, Nige. I mean, if you were part of the gas lobby, you might have got a quicker seat at the table.
So it would seem.
One of the things I've found frustrating with this is that Sigenergy's own end user page, the end users didn't realise that it was Sigenergy controlled and that it has been consistently sanitised because they just do not approve posts that they don't like. But
Yeah, but no,
no,
I fucking, oh no, I'll take you to task on that, mate, because I've spoken to Sigenergy about that directly, and I've said, tell me about your moderation. And I actually believe Will. He said, we do not moderate bad posts out of our stuff. And you guys have published allegations of that. And I'm going to take you to task on publishing allegations, because that's just fuel to the fire with zero evidence. And if you talk to SIG about it, and if you look at what has happened in the last few days, now that they've engaged a PR company and a media company and said, we are being hammered by content and by questions and everything else, and we simply can't keep up. So the criticism that is fair is Sigenergy aren't keeping up. They aren't keeping up with allowing posts through. And like all of their Facebook pages, and I'll say this out loud, I signed up to all of them yesterday. And I had to wait to be approved to get access to those pages because they're moderated, like most groups are these days. So I had to wait to get access to those pages, and until I got access, I couldn't see it. Once I saw it, I went, oh my God, I want to turn this off. There's so much noise here, and there is so much content because they've become the single largest battery supplier in the country. Right? They are being hammered, and Will said, Nigel, we are absolutely scrambling as fast as we possibly can to keep up with the constant questions, the constant information flow, and we've got some work to do. There's no doubt about that. They haven't been able to keep up with it. They have been black and white on the record saying they are not moderating bad posts out. They simply can't keep up with the demand, and there's a massive difference. They're not moderating bad content out. They just can't keep up with it.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you, Nigel, because there's plenty of people who've turned up on other social media sites who've saying, look, I've asked this question and it never gets approved over there, so I'm bringing it here. Perhaps what crystallises it for me is that their official statement on the end user page is, now maybe this is a function of them engaging PR people. They are trying to minimise with their language the problem they've got on their hands. There's a minor problem.
Who wouldn't?
But there's a minor problem with a small number of inverters, and they've concentrated so much on that spin, that minimisation, that people in the comment section are asking, does this apply to me? Here's this statement that's meant to crystallise. No, hold on. There's this statement that's meant to crystallise for the end users. Are they involved? What's going to happen? What do you need to know? And the people in the comment section are confused. There are others in the comment section referring them back to the article that SolarQuotes wrote out to say that, look, this puts it in a clearer fashion. Read this article and you will know. So I really don't accept that they're being transparent. They've done a better job, I think, on their installer page, but the installers sort of understand the jargon a bit more. When you've got end users on your official statement reading it and going, I'm confused about what this official statement says. You've got to step back and go, nah, look, there's something.
Could they have done better? Sure.
It's been pretty dismal. It
has, but at the end of the day, the magnitude of the problem, you got to come back to this. And I was out on a call with 8 regulators the other day, and I can't talk about what we were talking about, but a lot of it was around this, logically. And one of the people on the call one of the very senior people on the call made the comment, 2 comments actually that were really relevant. One, this is not an existential threat. The numbers are public now that there have been 100 incidents, which is less than 1% less than 1%. It is a minuscule amount that have actually had an issue. So more than 99% of systems are absolutely fine. They've been firmware limited to avoid the kind of risks that can cause a problem. There are 0 battery fires. There are 0 inverter failures. It's one small problem associated with an AC connector that has affected about 100 sites out of literally tens of thousands. Now, could they have done a better job and got some of those details out? Yep, they could. I agree. Would it have been nice? I'm going to actually rephrase that. Would it have been nice? It would have been very nice. Were they in control of that? Absolutely not. Because what they did was they followed the rules and regulations. They went to the regulators and got caught up with 8 different regulatory bodies, a whole bunch of lawyers and a whole bunch of PR people.
But Nigel, you got to give people a chance to be frustrated and upset at the fact that the finger's being pointed at them. You know, installers who are doing their absolute darndest in a really busy, like a usually really busy time, dialed up to 11. They're stressing about not having enough information to tell their customers, and 2, trying to figure out when they're going to go back to site. Now, credit where credit's due as well here. It does seem that SIG's giving people a decent amount to go back and replace these inverters, but when are we going to get them, and what are we supposed to do about the jobs in our pipeline? And you know, like, we're at a boiling point already, and people should be allowed to vent. It's healthy. It's healthy to say I'm frustrated.
And you ended up with 2 streams
situation.
online, Jess.
Yeah,
there was, like, you look on cutters where you had the guys going, well, I've installed so many of them, I haven't had a single issue, and you've got guys who are respected and good installers who had issues. So it became, that was a flow-on effect. I agree with you, Jess, that in this sort of scenario, you can't ignore the impact to businesses and installers. So what it means is that, so what SIG are doing, let's go back to the bare facts. There's a recall now on the single phase 8, 10 and 12 kilowatt inverters because of this AC plug potential issue.
And can I jump in there and say that on that, I agree. Going through the facts is really, really critical here. They have only recalled 3 out of the 5 inverters that they have approved in Australia. The other 2 are still certified, still approved, still able to be sold, still able to be installed. So it does not affect all models. It only affects about 1/3 of their total volume.
Nah, that's bullshit, Nige. Sorry.
No, it's not bullshit.
80% of the East Coast is single-phase power, and there's no way that we're talking a small portion here. We're talking the majority, or we're talking 80% of the East Coast is single-phase, so it stands to reason that 80%.
I have the numbers. I know exactly that it is about 1/3 of the installed volume.
So you're telling me that there's 20,000 three-phase inverters or more, in addition to the tens of thousands that you said for the single phase.
It makes heaps of sense, Carl, because when you think about it, the thing that SIG sold really hard on was high power sites, VPP trading sites, V2G sites, electric vehicle sites, and they had the algorithms, they had the wow factor, they had everything else that attracted people that could not solve that problem.
I'd second Nige. I'm way less likely to suggest SIG on a single phase site.
And most of the other manufacturers couldn't even do what they could do.
Scale-wise,
right.
Yeah.
So, it's absolutely...
I'm going to bring it back to the facts. Very good statements. I'm going to bring it back to the facts. So that's the recall on the products. What SIG are doing is that they are giving replacements for those units which have an updated AC plug. My understanding is it's the same or similar to the 3-phase plug.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it hasn't got the same potential to have the issues. And they've got $500 for the swap over, which is pretty generous as far as swap overs go. And so that's what's going on. Let's stay with the facts for a sec, Nige.
Can I clarify that?
So
because there's been a lot of speculation about whether that is a cash credit or whether it's a stock credit. It is not a stock credit. It will be paid as a cash, EFT, whatever it's going to be. It's not necessarily going to be cash, but you are not going to be required to buy stock to get that $500 credit. So let's put that issue to bed. It's not.
So that's generous, and that's what they're doing to fix it, which is great. But coming back to the impact on business, we've got businesses coming into the busy time of the year. The deeming period on the 1st of Jan will drop, which is about, for a SIG battery, it's about $300 per unit. It's going to drop. So it has a material impact on businesses.
Agreed.
Because to get, I think it's over 10,000 affected units replaced with the new plugs. It's not like you can push a button and the stock's in the
Well,
country.
Nigel said it doesn't
So I'm
matter.
sure
It could
they'll
just-
scramble. I'm sure there'll be air freight and whatever they're
Nigel
doing.
just
No,
said it doesn't
let's
matter.
stick
They
with
can
this.
go and do the three-phase stuff. But
Let's stick with this. So
two-thirds
companies,
of the volume won't really
no, but
affect anyone.
companies that have majority SIG on their books are going to struggle to fill their calendar, or they're going to have to work very hard. There's an enormous
There's
cost of
pain.
business to
There's pain.
reschedule this time of year, and then ultimately jobs are going to be pushed into next year, which the lesser deeming period, the lesser BSTC is being paid out, is a material impact. And even if they get the stock, they can only sign off on 2 per day.
That's right.
So there's all these factors.
No.
So that's facts that impact the business, Nigel. Come on, tell me, Nigel.
No.
Tell me, Nigel.
What I can tell you, I asked this question very specifically the other day, and I'm going to leak this out, that I learned that the limit of 2 per day is not impacted when it comes to a recall and this type of activity. So if you are required to, if you needed to do 6 a day because of a recall, that will not impact on your 2 per day.
But you don't have to. It wouldn't be claiming any STCs for a replacement inverter.
Exactly.
Nigel.
Exactly. It's outside the rules. It's different.
I don't
different
think
issue.
Luke's referring to replacement inverters. I think he's referring to jobs that have been shifted back in the calendar.
Correct.
Because we can't install the ones that we have in our warehouses as we speak.
That is correct.
Just do the
That is
three-phase
correct.
ones.
Unless you swap to the ones. I mean, I spoke to multiple installers who went, "No, it's okay. Instead of doing a 10, I'm doing 2 5s. The 5s are still approved. The 5s have a lower
nothing
power
wrong with
limit.
that. That's
They
a
have
good
different-
idea.
Nothing wrong with the 5s, right? So do
Yep.
2 5s. I'm hearing stories of wholesalers saying, "I'll do 2 5s for the same price as a 10." Happy days. Now, of course, they've got a stock issue. They're air freighting and doing everything they can to get stock in. I'm sure the factory guys are going Burko. They're trying to do everything they can possibly do to get everything in as quick as they can, and that will remain painful. But there are options.
Three-phase.
All right, let's bring Anthony back in.
Nigel, you're obviously closer to it than I am, because you're coming out with a lot of the information that I'd like to have, frankly, in terms of numbers and in terms of what they're up to. I mean, I'd like to have that information because I'd like to be able to disseminate it to people. And like I said before, apparently we're doing a better and more accurate job of disseminating it. We've tried on a lot of occasions to help people out with with looking at warranty claims from Trina panels or all sorts of different things. But what I've found sort of curious is what I'm being told is that if you're a large enough mover of SIG stock, your wholesaler has got a good idea that there's more units coming in and they'll be here next week. I don't know whether they're going to end up doing an exchange program with the local guys in the warehouse, changing plugs over or that sort of thing. That might actually make it happen quicker. But they obviously need stock to get that going in the first place. But if that stock's arriving next week, it hasn't fallen from the sky. They've obviously known, and they have been putting it together and putting it on the planes and sending it here before they announced their...
And getting CEC listing too.
Yeah, before they announced...
And getting CEC listing.
Before we got this drop of, here, this is what we're doing. If they were...
Well, they're not able to announce that. They're not in control of that, Anthony. You know that. They don't control when
Nigel,
the ACCC announces a recall.
They started with their own recall. They didn't call it a recall. They put in big, bold text, this is not a recall. But they started the process themselves. And they held off on announcing that until arguably we forced them to announce it. What it strikes me as is that they've tried incredibly hard to control the information. And in the internet age, that always goes really badly.
Sure.
And that, I think, is as much as anything what the industry people are pissed off about is, like, they kept saying, they still say on the publications that are going out yesterday, this is a minor problem, it's an installation problem. Oh, but we're going to go the extra mile and replace all of the things. And arguably, it's not the extra mile. It's what they're obliged to do under law. So, like I said,
Well,
they've
it's
just
what
done
they're
it.
obliged to do under law if it's an issue with the product. And I think that's where a lot of people are confused and having to make really stressful business decisions about, like, is this an installer fault or not? You know, are the instructions unclear, or is it a bad design, like a plug that's designed in a way that's easy to get it wrong, or blah blah blah. All of that aside, like, the lack of information means that businesses are having to figure it out themselves rather than knowing, you know, do I just have to go and ask my installers, hey, did you do it XYZ way? Did you use this type of cable, you know, whatever it is? Or am I going to have to guess whether it's my problem or not?
Sure.
I'm
To their credit,
answering
though,
those questions.
by doing a firmware update, they have limited the risk. They have virtually, I'm going to say it, they've virtually eliminated the risk because they can limit the power, firstly, which is the failure mode, is when there's too much power going through those plugs. I heard Marcus Lambert talking about this in most practical terms, where he said, I'm signed up to a VPP. I see my battery getting flogged senseless when prices are high, and so my inverter heats up like crazy because it's suddenly trying to deliver all this energy at a rapid rate of knots, let alone if you hang two EVs off it at the same time and a hot water system and everything else. So in certain circumstances, there's no doubt that it's feeling the pressure, right? They're feeling the pressure. And that, you know, I heard someone say on a call the other day that, you know, you could argue that, you know, it's probably 50-50, right? The plug isn't ideal. Clearly, when it's being stressed, it's a bit of a challenge. Clearly, if it's not installed right, it's a bit of a challenge. Clearly, there are things that could be done that would make it less prone to problems. Do we have an existential threat? No, there's 100 of them. The rest have all been limited. The rest are all being addressed. As fast as stock can be moved into the country, it'll be moved into the country. So I just think I just think it's such a storm in a teacup. It needs to be taken seriously. There's no doubt about that at all. But I really think, and this is just a personal view, I really think SIG have unfairly copped an absurd amount of criticism over this when they've actually worked really hard to resolve it. And you know what? Last week it was someone else. Next week it could be someone else. And all that's happening by dragging this and making this, and you guys have such reach, massive respect, Anthony, but you guys have such risk. What you are doing is feeding cannon fodder to the haters.
Yeah, look, they were very unlucky, Nigel, in that the distributor's warehouse burnt down in New Zealand at the same time, same day. That's pretty unlucky. You know, when it rains, it pours. So, you know, pretty unfortunate there too.
Carl, I saw a really good post from you this week, which was talking about this issue, but then taking a step back and saying this is a broader issue in the context of electrification.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
As we electrify vehicles and houses.
Yep. So, you know, 80 amp board, 63 amp feed from the street. Let's plug in another 45 amps of supply to that board. You know, I
Back
think
to cables and breakers, our favourite topic.
Yeah, well, you know, you can easily overpower that type of switchboard, and they're very common out there. So, you know, we should be doing some pretty serious switchboard upgrades when we're throwing 10 kilowatt inverters at them. It's, you know, we've increased the supply from 14 and a bit to 25 kilowatts. It's a lot.
But, you know, I have to say, with a new system on now, you know, it's suddenly becoming very apparent to me because I didn't have monitoring on before. Now I've got monitoring on going, holy crap, look at the amount of load that I'm whacking through this house. I had no clue, you know, and
Surely
even an
you
EV aficionado who's just gone, oh, I think a Kia sounds cool. Let's get one of those. And you know, some weird guy's got an electric motorcycle down there that needs charging as well, and the batteries are low because it's been a rainy day. So yeah, let's whack some charge into them. And then Amber, Amber sounds cool. Let's get signed up to Amber, and now Amber are discharging and charging your battery all at the same time. Do I have control over that as a consumer? No.
Of course you do. You got the data. You keep looking at it. You haven't got your head out of it in 3 days.
No. We're nerds. We're exceptions. Most consumers had no clue what's going on. And I'm not.
What's your take, Anthony?
I think that the industry has to obsess a little bit less over what it looks like versus how it's going to perform. Because when you see some of the photos of these SIG installs where they've mashed the cable to keep it behind the cover to make it look pretty, because they didn't want to use the knockout and run the cable out the appropriate bend radius. We've all got to be more careful about how we're putting these things together, the size of the cables that we're using. I actually had a guy today because I often moderate blog comments, and I had a guy today who's an electromedical guy who explained that the difference between ferrules and 7-strand cables and how it goes into tunnel connectors. And I'm going to look into it now, because I reckon that the ferrules SIG are supplying aren't suitable for the 7-strand cable that we commonly use in Australia. Whether they've come to the conclusion that, this is normally how we do it, and we exclude the oxygen with a nice tight hexagonal crimp, and then that goes in the plug and it gets the screw on it and it's tickety boo. And they've sent people out here wondering, what are these guys doing? It all works back in our lab. If they've then come here and realised, oh shit, they're using this other cable,
But
and they're using
Anthony,
XLPE, which has got a higher rating, so then you don't have to use that sheer size. I think there's been a failure here between what we normally do, and their answer is to go to the lugged connection, which uses a big hydraulic press or a big bolt cutter type terminal crimper, because you put your 7 strands in there and you mash the bloody things together, and you've got the most solid connection known to man, and then you've got lots of surface area and you bolt it down with a nut, and that's great. That's what they needed to be from the outset. And for the want of saving $1 or $2 on this plug, they're not even saving much time in installing it, because you've got to prepare it and bootlace it and crimp it. You're just changing the type of thing that you're crimping on.
I think
Anthony,
I think there's no doubt that SIG have learned a lesson.
Oh yeah,
Installers have learned a lesson.
and we all need to learn it.
And whether it's SIG or whether it's someone else, I think the challenge for me on the SIG issue is that we're conflagrating multiple issues. We're conflagrating a product design that could have been better. We're conflagrating standards and regulations and rules and standard practices that are changing at a rate of knots, right? We've got new standards coming all the time. We're also conflagrating, the biggest program that arguably the world's ever seen to roll out distributed generation. We're conflagrating communications effectiveness, right? We're mashing all these issues together and just throwing SIG under the bus. And I've said it before, so I'll shut up.
I will say that people are, and potentially yourself included, Anthony, people are champing on the bit to shit on SIG. There are a lot of people who've been just itching to say, I told you so. And, I think at a time where people are especially stressed because, you couldn't pick sure, you couldn't really pick a good time for it, but you probably couldn't pick a worse time for this, right? Just before Christmas, STCs, blah, blah, as we just discussed. People are really going for each other's throats a little bit here in a lot of these comment sections, and that maybe we need to sort of try and treat each other with a gram of kindness with one little deep breath before we press enter on our comment, mate. Just a little.
Here. Luke, are we out of time? We're running pretty close to time.
Yeah, we need to wrap up shortly, so we're going to go around and get last comments, and that could be interesting. I don't feel that we can wrap this up in a neat bow, because there's a whole lot more that we haven't unpacked and haven't discussed, and I feel that's going to take time as an industry to work out what the lessons are. You mentioned that there's lessons, and I think everyone's watching it. The hope is that our listeners and watchers aren't impacted too much. I know having to reschedule jobs, there is a material cost to business at the moment. There is a material cost to mental health at the moment. So check in on your mates. If you're doing it tough, if you need help, make sure you're reaching out, because that's Jess, you're always very good at acknowledging this, but including in Sigenergy, including in SolarQuotes, including in all the stakeholders, this stuff gets emotional and it takes a toll. So look out for yourself, look out for the others, and let's learn the lessons for the industry collectively and just move forward.
It's so good that everyone cares so much, right? Like, it is a wonderful thing that people are invested,
Come on,
personally invested
bring it in.
in why we do it. Little hug for everyone.
Nigel's got a party to get to. He just wants to wrap it up so he can go and party with 18-year-olds. So,
Of course he does.
No,
happy birthday, Raph.
yeah.
Last comments then. Let's go around and do that. I think Carl.
Look, I said
next.
when we discussed this first, I said, look, there's probably a pretty good chance that this is an installer problem. And ultimately, as you said, everybody's learned a bit here, right? So we've learned a bit more about bend radiuses. We've learned a bit more about boot laces, lugs with little nuts. You know, are we going to strip the bolts off the little nuts? Probably going to do that too, right? So I've had chats with other industry professionals, and you know, there's a number of different ways. We reckon that, you know, if you could actually give them the parts to do the repair on site, saves a lot of mucking around with freight and time and cost doing that. But you know, the way that they're doing it is the way that they've decided to do it. And
I suppose, but then the manufacturer is going to carry the liability of the workmanship of a plethora of installers. So probably the majority of them, they wouldn't mind, but they would carry the liability of that. So I understand why that's difficult. If it's that with distributors and workshops and service centres to do it, sure. But yeah, the guy on site doing, you know, what's effectively an ACCC recall, replacing a part, that I think the liability.
you reckon it's
is
too
private.
hard?
I think that the liability, no one could carry that, right? I don't think the ACCC would accept it.
Yeah, here. All the state regulators.
Agreed, though, Carl. Would save money, would save effort, but I don't think it's doable.
Yeah, bummer.
Yeah.
Just
Did
wanna
you
get
finish
it
your
done,
last
right?
thought there, mate?
Just want to get it done.
Yeah.
Get it
No
done
shit.
so we can move
Yeah.
on, keep going, keep smashing in batteries.
Yeah. Last comments, Nige?
I just want to really encourage everyone. Jess's point is really valid, and actually one of the things I want to say is I know everyone's feeling exhausted and maybe a little bit manic, and it's the time of year, right? It's always crazy this time of year, and we've got the battery rebate, and we've got the normal solar rebate, and now there's a recall that's happening as well. So you know, I want to really acknowledge how difficult this is. I'm not out installing batteries, and it is really, really difficult, and it does need to be communicated well, and it needs to be communicated effectively, and there needs to be fast solutions. And could it have been better? Yeah, it could have been better. But at the end of the day, I actually think that the critical issue that we need to keep in mind here is that we have the biggest and arguably one of the most successful battery rebates in the world, which is going to transform not just Australia's electricity industry, but the way that I was in China hearing people saying, what you guys are doing is changing the world because you're showing us what's possible, right? And the last thing that we should be doing right now is damaging the brand of the cheaper home battery rebate by throwing someone under the bus. So I just want to really encourage everyone to take a breath and keep some context and understand that it is not an existential threat. It's 100 sites, which is a tiny percentage. And it may have been a bit slow coming, but whether it's SIG or whether it's Tesla or whether it's any other global manufacturer, they all do their best. They learn these lessons, and let's not destroy the single biggest program in the world for residential batteries by losing our shit.
Well said, Nige. Anthony Bennett from SolarQuotes. Great to have a bit of robust conversation, mate.
No,
I'm
thank
sure
you.
we'll check in with you again
Anytime.
in the future, because you're not just a one-trick pony, mate. I know that you've got a whole lot of understanding of what's going on in the industry. You've written, like I said, some of the most incisive and groundbreaking articles have been written by you. So appreciate what you contribute to the industry as well.
Oh, thanks.
Last
Luke.
comments.
Two things. I wrote a review for SIG, and I couldn't really find much wrong with them. They were a compelling product, and I wrote arguably a one-liner on the bottom, and I said, I hope this thing isn't the next NEDAP power router. That's my official installer training for the NEDAP power router, and I'm a bit heartbroken.
Oh, burn it, Anthony.
I'm a bit heartbroken that these things are catching on fire. Like, what upsets me is that nobody seems willing to talk about it and actually, I'm in some sort of position to be able to help people out and say, look, this is what you need to do, or how can we go about it? And I've just tried to keep everything tightly controlled, and it's frustrating. Because I'm here to try and help people where I can. And secondly, I was challenged to ask you, Nigel, when was it that SIG came on as the top tier supporter of the SEC?
Oh, off the top of my head, I don't know. It was probably about, from memory, it was about 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, no, that.
But I can tell you right now that the inference is that what we're doing is defending SIG, which is BS.
You guys are defending the industry, and I really like.
That's correct.
Yeah, and that's like I said. A lot of people throw stones at us saying, "Oh, you're just in it for the clickbait." And like I said, we've got skin in the game. If it goes pear shaped, we've got 20 or 30 grand. We've already paid 20 or 30 grand out on good install guarantees for other problems where, companies have gone broke and we've refunded deposits and stuff. We like to think that we're doing the best that we can. We do arguably more than NetCC does in terms of consumer protection.
And
who doesn't?
The bar is low. You drag your feet to get over that.
It's a rabbit warren you've opened.
You've just got to.
And that's all we have time
I
for.
thought we were wrapping up. That's a whole other episode.
You've just got to pass the CEC's stringent checks.
Oh, Anthony, I always used to take Carl to task because we'd finish an episode and we're just doing the wrap up.
Mm.
And he'd open the box again and start up some topic that's like a whole. That's another 15
special.
minutes. Yeah, you've just pulled out 2 topics that are worth 15, 20 minutes each.
All right.
So I might just need to bookmark that.
All right.
Future episodes, we do have to wrap it up. So thanks, team.
Oh, yeah, Jess.
You missed
go for it,
Jess.
Give me, mate.
Oh,
geez,
sorry,
host,
Jess.
Sorry, we
Sorry,
haven't got
guys.
time for that today.
Is this another 15 minutes? Go for it, Jess.
No, I remembered an important fact that I just wanted to addendum on, which is that SIG is adding 2 years of warranty onto systems that are wrapped up in this. And I do think it's a sum. It's a sum. And then my final point, this is perfectly in context, is we just need to remember nuance. People can say a thing and feel differently about a different thing, or feel differently about that thing 15 minutes later. You can hold more than one feeling and more than one opinion about something at the same time. And this is just a perfect example of everyone's getting read at face value for the one thing that they commented. So just...
Jess, you're so wise. You're so
Got
wise.
it on the TikToks,
All right, can I wrap it up now?
Yeah.
Just
I'll allow it.
speak now, forever hold your peace.
I'm going to throw one in because I've been challenged on it. I've just looked up our database. SIG they've been a member for ages. They renewed their premium membership with us on the 25th of August, Anthony, just to put the haters at bay. So way before this became an issue.
Beautiful.
There you go. All right. So there'll be a button there to subscribe, and you can share the episodes, and we're not doing another 15 minutes. We really appreciate you listening, appreciate your support, appreciate your comments and suggestions and everything else. So whichever platform you're on, please, it does help us to get a wider audience and to reach more people and to do better for the industry, which is why we do this. If you can help by subscribing, sharing it, liking it on whichever platform you're on. So take care, and we'll see you next time.
Tired of scrambling for CPD points at the last minute? With Southwell Solar Training, you can earn all 100 points for your accreditation without leaving home and without wasting time on boring, irrelevant courses. Our online training is practical, compliance-focused and designed by industry pros who've actually been on the tools. Learn at your own pace, get your certificate instantly, and stay compliant without the stress. Check out the full course list now at southwellsolartraining.com.au and get your CPD the easy way.